But I'm going to go ahead. So we started recording. So that means this recording will actually be up for about 7 days, and we'll get to that and maybe kind of a workaround if you want to save it. But thanks, guys, for joining us. I hope you guys find this interesting and something that you can use, because we have had a good time in the past few days nerding out about this. So this is Schoology Conference. And so for most of us, I think, that are doing like grad school programs, this is kind of how the setup is. So I think it's going to be really useful for our kids, because it's going to kind of show them essentially how like learning might be, especially distance learning at the next level will be. So you guys came in, and the cool thing about it is you guys can see all the users to the left, right? Yeah. Okay. And then you can see that there's I don't know if you guys from your end can see that there is a little wheel right there where you manage users. Nope. Okay. I'm going to show you my screen. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So that's a cool feature. You can share the screen. So up here to the left, it says manage users. This is where, because I'm the presenter, I can clear status icons, turn off meeting mute, save usernames, all those kind of things. So let me log out of that, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right, back to normal. Okay, so the first thing you notice when you come in, though, is all your kids, if you decide to do this, their names will pop up, and then there are the different icons. So right now, you guys all have the red mics. That lets me know that you're muted. Mine is green, and then I also have the little icon up at the top that says that I'm the presenter. Based off of what we've kind of played with, we're just thinking that this would be a good use. It could be obviously some direct teaching, but good for like conference, like a conference hour, or a like office hours, where maybe you are answering questions about specific assignments, giving specific tutoring to some of your kids. The best thing that we think is that obviously you should mute all students just to kind of get with that background noise, but then also kind of establish some of those guidelines for how you want your class to run. So based off of, we really don't want to see all of our kids' houses, and we don't want them to feel uncomfortable. So it's just kind of easier that way, just if you're the only one that has your video on. The other thing that you'll notice is if you look where the public chat is up at the top, everybody can see the public chat. And then it says Schoology. So if you have kids that for whatever reason aren't able to pull this up, or maybe there's a technology issue, they can still call in and be part of the conference if it was something that you wanted them to still be a part of. So there's that option as well. And I believe Andrea's played with it and called in as well. So the public chat, in talking with Mr. Cotton, we also talked about the public chat, because we don't know what they're going to want us to do as far as attendance. But this would kind of be a good way to be like, hey, everybody that's in class, go ahead and say hey. And then everybody can say hey. And they've got a timestamp on it. And there's also the option to save the chat. So you do want to let your kids know that, especially if you're going to record it, hey, this is being recorded. Everything that you say in here is savable. So we want to make sure, you're on your P's and Q's about that. And then let's go ahead and get started so you guys can see all the features real quick. All right. So this is for you guys, and we'll have this up. We've been kind of playing with it. Miss Garcia and I added you to her conference. And so you guys actually kind of have it a little special, because in her conference period, you're considered admins. So when we're looking at all the features, you technically could do everything that we're doing right now because you have that admin status. So obviously you got here, so you know how to get in here. But how do you actually create a conference in your class period? So what you would do is you would go in to click conference, and then once you get there, it says create new conference. And so you can create your title, the date, and the time. You can actually set up an end time if you want to, but so far we haven't felt the need to do so, because you can just manually end the conference. And then you can just click start conference. We've always clicked start conference. I don't believe it just automatically starts without, just because you said it starts at 2 o'clock. You have to still, as the admin, go in and start the conference. You guys did your microphone check. So that gives you obviously the ability to speak and chime in, or you could just listen in if you wanted to, or your students could just listen in if they don't have it. The one thing I did look up, because as far as like iPads, if you're on an iPad or a cell phone, you can still use Schoology conferences. You just can't do it in the app. You have to go through the browser function in order to use conferences. Okay. So once you do that, and set up your microphone, or your kids can set up their microphone, then you can see the audio setup. Obviously, you can. Let me go back here. So the video starts sharing. I already did that, and then you have the record button up to the top right hand side. I think I got ahead of myself. Okay, so this is the part where you have to kind of get really comfortable, especially if you aren't comfortable using online platforms. Since we were part of the Schoology cohort, one of the things that they taught us, especially this year, was making sure that you establish those online norms, your norms and your expectations. And so for me, like, not only did I have a classroom set of rules, I had an online set of rules of what I expected for my kids. How do we talk to each other? How do we respond to each other? This isn't text messages, so we're not going to use shorthand. This is an academic setting. And so that's what I expect from you. And so you want to remind them of that, especially obviously because it's going to be recorded. So those are some of the things that you want to do. And we placed a link to the ITSE digital citizenship standards. All right. So some of the controls are how to mute your students. And that's one of the things that I did for you guys, because it just makes it easier. And then you can lock your students, and then of course the public chat. The interesting thing is you guys should be able to click on your icon. Am I getting ahead of myself, Andrea? Okay. So when you look at your name on the left-hand side, you can actually click your name, and it says set status. Do y'all see that? Find your name, click set status. And then when you click set status, it'll give you a bunch of options. Everybody seeing that? Yeah? No? Okay. And so we figured that this would be kind of one of those things where you tell your kids, hey guys, class has begun. I'm muting you. From now on, this is the norm. If you have a question, you can go and you can set your status to raise hand. Okay. And so that lets me know that you have a question. And since I know that you have a question, from there, I can go in and say, somebody raise their hand. Let's see. I'm going to, Kaylin Poe, please raise your hand. Did you raise your hand on your status? Okay, it's raised. So now I see that he's raised his hand. And so I can say, all right, Kaylin, what's your question? Please, or I'm sorry, because I'm the admin, I will have to mute it. You guys technically can unmute your microphones because you're admins, but your students won't be able to. But go ahead, Kaylin, can you unmute your mic and ask a question? Where are you?
Has anyone tried using this on a phone, tablet, or anything other than a computer yet?
Okay, so no, we haven't. But according to Schoology's, their help guide, it says that you can use it you can't use it on the app. You would just have to go through the browser to get to it. You'd have to use the browser option. So that's something we'll probably test out.
Yeah, we plan to test that out with some of our debaters. They've agreed to be guinea pigs of sorts for us since we have a debate course. So we plan to actually test it on their side to see how everything works out.
Okay. Let me change slides. And then, Andrew, do you want to go ahead and take over, presenter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is kind of where I come in. And just to answer the question that had been asked earlier, I am planning to make PowerPoints for both teachers and students of how-to guides And also I plan to try to work with Adam to create like a troubleshooting guide just in case so that we have everything we need. Part of the reason that I feel like I'm comfortable with this is I used to teach online before I became a teacher at Ellison. So this is the type of platform I use. So I kind of have an idea of some of the glitches that can arise during it. But for the most part, it is pretty helpful. So once you start playing in it, you can really make it your own. So you have upload options. So if you see down at the bottom, it shows actions. Now I'm going to take presenter away from Penny Buoy. And I think this is actually a really cool aspect of it that I would bring up later. But you can have multiple people presenting in the same conference. And you can flip it back and forth. You can take presenter. So I've taken it away from her. And so there's upload options. And so you can start a poll, upload a presentation like I did, or you can actually show an external video. So right now I'm going to actually do a poll. So how many of you, do you think this is cool? Yes or no? Awesome. Now, what you'll see is if you were admins, I actually see everybody that's in here and if they've responded. What I could say is, okay, everybody has 5 minutes to say yes or no, and then I can actually publish the results so that you can see on your side how many people thought it was cool, how many didn't, okay? So that's really cool. We actually talked about that, using that for attendance if we have to, or participation, like, hey, are you listening? Because you actually can create custom questions. So this would be really good for like math, history, all those subjects that you can really ask questions for. And I'll show you later how to share a video, because you can actually include a YouTube video and control it within this actual conference. It's just I haven't figured out how to toggle back and forth yet, so I don't want to mess this up. There's also the notes option. So if you see on the side, it says shared notes. This is a really cool option, and I used to use this when I worked for EF. So here, right now, because we're all admins, we can all type. So, but what you can do as an admin is set it to where only you can type in it. And if you do that, then what I used to do is I used to take all the notes I would type as a teacher, I would copy them, paste them into a Word document, and share them with my students. Now I've hit my IEPs and my 504s because they have notes ready to go, and I can upload them to Schoology so they always have them. So now they not only have a digital recording of it, but they have everything we talked about here in a Word form. So I always thought that was pretty cool. And right now everybody can use it because we're all admins right now. There's also the whiteboard option. Now to do the whiteboard option, you have to include a blank page on your in your presentation. So I put it at the very end. It's slide 13. And right now, I can write on it right now if I want to, or I can do text. But I can also have the options to make everybody eligible to use it. So you can all draw on it. You can do whatever you want on it. Yeah, so see how everybody's name's kind of moving around? Yeah. So we think that's actually a really cool way, especially like if you're doing math or something like that, that would be really good. Or I could write out a sentence and say, I want you to underline the verb, which is what I used to do with my basic kids anyways. And they could just use the pen and underline it.
I did play with it earlier today, and because right now, I'm sure like everybody else, you're seeing the shared notes, everybody's names on the left, and so it's kind of still a small white screen, but you can still use this feature and having full screen, so that'll give you more of a larger space to play with.
Yeah,
for your kids.
And so then, like, let's say you want to erase your stuff, you can hit the garbage can and it clears all the annotations that you made. So, and what's cool is you can like turn it on, off, you can draw shapes and things. So I really like that. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to go back. Let's see. I think I was on slide 10. Nope. So it'd be helpful if I remembered what slide I was on. Okay. So then here's the other options. One was the multi-presenter. And what's also cool is we found out that you can actually have other teachers in here as moderators. So those of us that have inclusion teachers, they can be in here and they can be moderating the chat. and they can be answering questions as I'm teaching to help those inclusion kids. So that would be a really good option to have them as moderators. The other great thing about that is breakout rooms. You're able to establish rooms that cut off from this conference. So I would set it up and say, okay, all my ESL kids are going to go with Ms. Vargas, and they would break out into their own session, and I would set a timer, and then they could come back into the conference after they were working with Ms. Vargas. So this would be good for your ESLs, your 504s, your inclusion kids. Yes?
So I was going to ask, for the inclusion teachers, how would they, or can they, would there be a feature where they can talk to just one kid at a time?
That's the breakout room, because you can set up the breakout room in and of itself. There's also private chat that you can allow so that the administrators or the moderators can have private conversations within the course. Yeah. And so I thought that was really cool. It's also conducive for group work. So you can say, well, we are going to do a group project, and what's going to happen is I'm going to lay everything out, and you're going to have 10 minutes in your groups, and you can assign them. They can be randomly assigned, or you can let the kids choose which ones. I would probably choose where I wanted them to go. They'd break out, and then they'd come back. So I think that's a really cool option to continue that collaborative piece that we've been trying to push this whole year. And then it's also helpful for your other kids that need more time. And then so there's lots of things. I'm hoping that you guys will start to play with it more and let me and Ms. Pena know all the other stuff that's in there, because the more you guys play with it, the more we learn, and we can kind of incorporate that. So when you're wrapping it up, it's kind of pretty cool. So what you'll do is it's really simple. You see the 3 dots up here at the right where it says options. You end the session. And then what happens on the Schoology side is it goes from active to completed. And if you've recorded, after like a few minutes, you'll see a play button, and you can play it back. So the one problem that we have with that is that right now, the way that our district has it set up, we only have 7 days. But we did kind of find some workarounds for that. So here's our recommendations. When you have presentations, always include a blank white sheet at the end so you can have your whiteboard. I found earlier that you can upload PowerPoints, but it's kind of like Schoology. Have any of you uploaded a PowerPoint to Schoology and it kind of gets wonky? And like sometimes the stuff will merge together. Well, to keep it kind of glued in place, if you convert it to a PDF, it locks everything in place. So that's what I've been doing now, is converting them to PDFs and then uploading them, which was what I was doing for Schoology anyways. And I try to keep the sizing in mind, because we don't know how big of a screen they're really going to have. They might be looking on their phone. They might be on a like an iPad. Recording, always remember to import them in recording. And right now, like I said, it only lasts for 7 days. But the workaround we found is when you record it and it goes to your completed section, I can hit it to play it again, and also set up my QuickTime to do a screen recording. And that will record it through my QuickTime, and then I have it forever, and I can upload it to Schoology. I could upload it to YouTube. I could do all kinds of things with it after that point. I could even use it in a pause it and have questions interspersed throughout it. So maybe those kids that did miss the session, you can put it in pause it and insert questions that will grade them to make sure they actually watch the whole thing. So those were some ideas I kind of had for that. The breakout sessions, the only thing that kind of is not the best about the breakout sessions is you can't create them ahead of time. You have to do it in that moment. So, kind of have an idea of what you want to do with it, but you can't create it until you're ready for it. Make sense? Okay. Let's see. The only other thing is things we're still trying to figure out, and this is where I'm hoping now that more and more people are playing with it, you guys will be able to help me out and help Ms. Pena out, try to figure out all these little quirks about the system. So re-entry. So the other day, I accidentally hit refresh and it kicked me out and I wasn't able to get back in. So we need to figure that out, because some students are going to hit refresh. Also, like sometimes if your session times out, it'll kick you out. So we really need to figure that re-entry in. And I plan to like do some research on it. The other aspect is this can hold up to 100 students. So in theory, I should be able to have all my English 1 kids come and meet me at a certain time, and they should all be able to come in. But right now it's through Schoology, and Schoology is divided up by courses. So we need to figure out a way to
I think the workaround for that could be merging your courses together.
Okay.
I think Miss Harris might be trying that out tomorrow or sometime soon with a couple of her sections of kids. But I went on ahead and I merged some of my courses together in Schoology. I didn't know if you guys have ever done that, but I was new to that. It still keeps all the students technically separate, but instead of you having to post multiple things, I don't know about you guys, but I always would start with whatever the first class was, and then I'd have to, add the materials to that course, and then I would go in and go copy to the 3 other courses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I only add it to that one course, and everything populates for the others as well, if that's what I wanted to do. But I can select it at that time to go, no, I just want it for second period. And you can still have separate due dates or separate times if you wanted to, but it just makes it, if for those of you that do try to keep everything really consistent with those courses, it just keeps it all in one. But I think it should allow you to, since it's technically a merged course, you should be able to hopefully post that conference. But that's kind of the things that we were thinking about, because I don't know if they're going to actually ask us to. I just don't think it's realistic to try to keep us at the same schedule where we've got class periods, class times. So while you could technically direct teach and have a class like this to me was really good for just kind of having those extra office hours where you are giving that tutoring or answering those direct questions. Maybe you are giving this lesson, maybe you are direct teaching for some of your kids, but not necessarily all of them. And then you have another day of the week where you're saying, hey, you can catch me online and I'll answer any questions you have that you couldn't figure out during that lecture or whatever. The other thing that we figured out that I don't think we added it yet was browsers, to make sure that you are, because it's Schoology, that you need to be in Google is the first choice, and then maybe Firefox, but that's really it. Internet Explorer, Safari, not so much.
Yeah, don't get me started on Explorer and Safari. Nobody should ever use those in life ever, unless you're 100. But yeah, so Google or Firefox. I also have to figure out how it works with phones, because I did have some ESL kids, like they were comfortable taking tests and doing stuff on their phones through Schoology, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. Pena tried to get into it earlier. She had trouble, so I'm going to do some more research on that. But in general, like, I feel like this particular app, we could do a lot of things with it. I actually see myself teaching with it and giving that face-to-face instruction that I would normally do, like with my ESL kids, or even now with the English 2 or English 1s. But then I also see using it as a tutoring session or a conference period. So I think you can make it whatever you need it to be for your course. And I also think it's a great way for us to collaborate, because there's been times where me and Penny, but we have wanted to collaborate before, and our schedules just did not work. But then now we can do that. And so I think that would be a better way for us to collaborate across curriculum. Because there's times where I would love to work with other teachers and see how it works out. And since there's so many people, you can have multiple teachers and admins in it. I think that would be something we could work on too.
So the example that we kind of gave with that is, again, everybody here teaches these different contents. And I mean, if I wanted to bring Andrea in to say, hey, I really wish you could kind of reiterate some of the things about writing and how you guys are doing it in English for my kids, then where our time typically wouldn't fit that way. You know what I mean? She could try her best to teach me how she would teach her kids, and but it's still a little bit different, but it would just bring it in.
Yeah. And so this is a really good example of, we're always pushing that the kids have to have, accountable talk and meaningful discussions. But in reality, how often do they see that in their life? How often we don't model it for them. They don't see it at home. but then we expect them to have these meaningful discussions when they're in class. So one day I recorded Pena Bowie and Coach Johnson because they were both, professionals and they were experts in their field. And I created a video and the kids loved it. And I started seeing them modeling that and how engaged they were in that discussion. And so this is an example of how you can incorporate YouTube in it. As you see, you can have controls in it. I can hit play. I can even go to a different video. I can have the closed captions on the video in here as well. But this is just another way, like seeing us talk and collaborate, I think is great for our kids because we expect them to move into that collaborative part of GER, but then we don't ever show them truly what that looks like. And who better to show them than us? So I think that this would be a really good step off for us into moving into technology and using it meaningfully. Any questions? Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Yes, no? So I'm going to do a poll. I want to see, so how many of you think that you will use this? Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Well, that makes me happy. And like I said, if you guys find something new in it or you run into a stumbling block, please let me know and we'll try to figure it out or try to incorporate it because I really do think that if we all work together, we can really make this work because it is kind of crazy right now. So do you have anything else, Pena?
I'm trying to think if there's anything that we needed to add. We talked about cross-curricular. We talked about all of that. I think that's it. Just guys continue to play around with it. I mean, I know we were super excited when we figured it out. I think I was messaging Janie at like 11 going, "Are you up? Somebody else log in. This is cool."
Yeah, we totally nerded out. I'm not gonna lie. I was so excited that I sent DD an email and did not realize it was like 11:40 at night. But he was excited about it, so that was nice. But then we were up until like 1, like, oh my God, we could do all these things with it. So because I don't know about that, but I miss my kids. So
again, the other thing is, I mean, look what we're doing. Technically, we're sitting here doing PD together. And there are things that you guys know that we don't know all across campus. I mean, we went to Schoology cohort, so we know some of the things, but there might be some other technological tools that you guys use in your classroom that we don't use. And especially in this time, we need all the tools in the toolbox. So, like I said, I would recommend if you guys know something or have something cool that you do or you figured out, just be like, "Hey guys, do you want to log in and share that with everybody?" But this is, I mean, clearly we can't get within a big room with each other, but this is just as efficient.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about it.
And this also provides us a way to share things. So, I mean, I know in English, there's a lot of history that I talk about because they have to know the background to be able to understand it, especially with my ESL kids. And maybe, Mr. Poe has a recording on World War II that I might need to know about or something historical, and I could just use that. And that's kind of what we had been doing anyways through Schoology. This is just a new way to do it. And Miss Duggar, I think we're trying to figure that out. I have to get with Adam and Lila to see if we're going to have to set up a different way or maybe if that merge does work.
See, I thought about doing it to see if we could like merge, since technically I'm part of your conference, but I don't want to mess anything up. You know what I mean? Like merging conferences, just to see if we tried it, if kids from multiple could do that. So yeah, that's a question.
That's true. We could create a new course.
Yeah, we could just and have all our kids kind of dumped in that
one course, yeah.
That one tech course. And so then you just say, "Hey, these hours are these hours," and if you're part of that class, you jump in at that time. That's a good idea.
That is a very good idea. That's true. Yeah, I have
Oh.
similar situations. So are there any questions other than that?
I will say I'm going to share out. Shiloh asked me. We've been testing out private chat too. She asked me if I would share out my digital citizenship that I had them kind of digitally sign at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I will post that in this course too. And I don't know, Andrew, if you have one too that you have for your kids, we can post that.
Yeah, and like, because in my school, my kids are kind of used to Schoology, and so everything I do in class, I always take like a picture of it. Like if I write notes on the board, I would take a picture of it and upload it to Schoology. This is just the digital version of that, because I'm going to take this recording and also put it up there. And you'd actually be surprised how often they actually go back to these videos and watch them and use them. So I think we can get a lot of use out of this. Oh, thank you, Miss Duggar.
Aw. I'm just glad you guys are excited and we're willing to participate.
Yeah, I was like, when she told me so many people wanted to know, I was like, what? Thought I was nerding out by ourselves.
I mean, if you guys want to share it out or like let us know to add people, or maybe once you share the digital, once we because we can't share this actual, but once we go back and do the quick time recording of the screen, maybe you can upload this to, we can do it like a YouTube and embed it. So that way you guys can share it out if you want to. Or if somebody says, hey, I really, really want to do a little mini course like this, then we can do that again.
Definitely. And then also, I plan to do a PD during the summer on how to incorporate a lot of other apps and supports into Schoology. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free, contact me. I'm happy to help. I'm total nerd. I will get excited to do it. So
yeah. And Shiloh said she linked her classes. So tomorrow, we can post an answer about whether or not that'll work. Linking your classes, and if kids from multiple statistics classes are able to join that conference all at one time. So we should have an answer for sure. Is that it?
Well, thank you guys so much for
Thanks, guys. Oh my gosh, can I just say it's so good to see your faces.
I know.
I miss y'all. I mean, I miss my students, but I miss my people too.
Oh, awesome. Right. Let us know, Mr. C. Thank you so much.
Yes, and in the words of Janie, that'll be 2 rolls of toilet paper. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.